Welcome back to the Daily Drum on WHUR and Sirius XM Channel 141. This is the Insight segment. I'm Harold Fisher. Just how safe is D.C.? Crime figures from the Metropolitan Police Department have shown violent crime is down as much as 30%. But can the numbers be trusted? Two investigations, one by the Department of Justice and another by Congress, allege the Metropolitan Police Department manipulated crime data, cooking the books to make the city look safer than it really is. Well, tonight, we'll hear from a former D.C. police officer and a community activist on what this means for public trust, transparency, and safety in D.C. We're talking about all of this tonight. My guests are Ron Moten, community activist and author of the book Don't Mute Mo, The Vision of an Urban Scholar, and Ron Hampton, retired D.C. police officer and a law enforcement fellow at the University of the District of Columbia's Institute for Public Safety and Justice. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining this important conversation. I want to start with just a few fast facts, because this is obviously a rapidly moving situation. One of the first things is that just yesterday, the House Oversight Committee released a report accusing outgoing Police Chief Pamela Smith of manipulating crime data to maintain the appearance of low crime. The report alleges that Smith punished and removed officers for reporting accurate crime numbers, and that she fostered a toxic culture inside the department. The committee claimed that during President Trump's federal takeover of MPD, they received reports of police leadership deliberately lowering crime stats. Smith announced last week that she is stepping down at the end of this month to spend more time with her family, and that her decision had nothing whatsoever to do with the two investigations. And of course, the preliminary findings from a Department of Justice report also found that MPD has been manipulating crime stats. I want to just kind of get your opinion on this situation. So, Ron Hampton, I'll start with you. You've heard the allegations. What are your first thoughts about these two reports?
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Harold, for reaching out to me. I'm suspect about them, really I am. And that's not to say that everything is hunky dory over there at the Metropolitan Police Department. I have my own criticism of things that's been going on, but this Justice Department, and this Congress, the House and the Senate, I'm suspect of because of the things that's been going on, this whole disregard for home rule, the disregard for the leadership of the local leaders, the whole 9 yards. And having served as a police officer myself, I know that there's room within the process to either reduce or increase crime as it relates to when something happens in our community and the individual thing. They're called, the more formal words, it's called the elements of crime. And before you can put down a crime, you have to have the certain elements have to be exist. So that there's a lot of room when we start talking about documenting it. But I move about the city in the regular way myself, and I feel safe. I'm not a person to walk around with my eyes closed and all these other crazy things. So, but I feel safe in the city, and I haven't curtailed any of my behavioral activities in the city, and I'm all over the city. Now, you know, I do talk to people, and there are folks who feel kind of uneasy sometimes, but you know, again, I see people out in the street every single day.
Yeah. Ron Moten, what do you think about this report? I know this is something that has been kind of top of mind for you for a really, really long time.
Yeah. So I wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post on this very subject in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And basically I was calling it numbing down the numbers. And basically what it was saying, it wasn't necessarily manipulating the numbers by, changing categories, whatever. But I can take 5 crimes and add 10 more to it that don't really mean anything. And then I can say overall crime is down, right? So at that time, that's what was going on. It wasn't necessarily manipulating the numbers from like committing fraud. It just can be misleading when you take 5 categories. There could be violence, homicide, this, that, and the other. And then you add 10 other crimes that have gone down, right, to it that don't really matter to us. And then you get to say overall crime is down. But I can tell you this, I have more trust in this chief than I have in many of them that I've dealt with. And I've dealt with pretty much all of them because she has been hands-on. She doesn't come across a person that's going to lie, steal, or threaten anybody. I don't believe that for a minute. She's not that type of person. She's a spiritual person. She's a good person. And my question is, if this is the case, why are we just concentrating on her when people are saying this started a long time ago, allegedly, right? So to me, this is about the moment and the plan that's being put in place. I just hope and pray that the plan is not to use this as a way to federalize DC and do other things to DC and get justification to do it. Because, I mean, I know this woman personally from her coming into the community, addressing mothers, addressing parents, addressing officers when they're wrong. Coming out when the children were down the wall, she was there trying to save them. She was there trying to make sure they didn't get hurt. She didn't tell nobody to sick the dogs on them or do this or do that. So I have a lot of respect for her. And I just feel like this is sad that she's going out with I'll tell you this, I'll close with this. We've been in Anacostia since 2015. I've never felt safer in Anacostia. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel more safer in Anacostia than I did when I was uptown for over 20 years of my life. That's how safe I feel in Anacostia, a business owner and somebody who works with people and does a lot of things in Anacostia. So I feel very safe in Anacostia. But stigmas hurt us. Stigmas hurt business. And it does a lot of things to our community. So I just hope and pray that we can get this right, because there's a lot of things that are being put in the media throughout the world. And it's starting to affect our economy. It's starting to affect our city. And it's wearing some people down.
So you make a really important point when you take that 36,000-foot view. We can compare this to the economy, perhaps, and why it matters. And this isn't about a Donald Trump. It's not about a Joe Biden in this particular case that I'm making. But if the president says that the economy is doing fine, but you don't feel it, then it doesn't matter what the numbers say if you don't feel it. And so, Ron Moten, if the chief says the numbers are down, but you still get robbed on your street, then you don't feel.
And that was that's what my op-ed was about. At that time, it was around time Vince Gray was in or leaving, and I was saying, y'all keep saying numbers are down, but I don't feel safe, right? Mm-hmm. I'm telling you now, I feel safer than I felt in a long time in DC. We got the little issue with the young people, and that's a whole nother issue that we've been talking about. Yeah. But overall, right, I feel safer than I've ever felt. That doesn't mean I don't watch my back, but I'm watching my back wherever I go in this world. It don't matter where you go now. Somebody might pull out a gun and shoot 18 people, right? So wherever I go, I'm going to keep my street sense. But at the same token, I'm just telling you, I feel safer than I've ever felt before. Yeah, I worry because there are a lot of misguided people out in the world today. There are a lot of mad people out in the world today. So, I don't have fear of walking outside.
Yeah. Now, Harold, let me. I was about to ask you a question, Ron. So numbers versus perception. Why should a DC resident, Ward 7 and 8, Ward 1, Ward 4, Ward 5, wherever, how important is the feeling of safety versus what you hear from the mayor or the chief of police?
Oh, I think the feeling is more important than what you hear from the chief of police, because if we're out there in the community moving around, and we're involved in the things that's going on in the community, I want to say that this guy, Ron Moten, ever since I've known him, he's been out in the community. See, so that he's going to have a different feeling than what the police chief is going to say about the numbers. And anybody who's out there in the street. See, one of the things that I used to grapple with when I was in the police department, we was working in program development. One of the things that would happen is I really sometimes wouldn't even invite the lieutenant or the district, not the district commander, but the lieutenant, or even I forget what they called them, to the meeting to give the crime stats, because the crime stats were kind of, they were kind of misleading. Because if you live in a community and you working in the community, you have a better feel for whether or not that community is safe. And that's what Ron, to me, is saying, that by his virtue of him being in the community, doing the kind of things that he's doing at the museum and out there in the community, doing stuff, marching and all of that, you're going to have a genuine feel for what it's like in that community, because people know you and they're going to respond to you. But if all you're doing is listening to the stats, you can be misled by the stats, and the stats can give a false reading. So I don't listen to the stats, because I'm out there in the community. I feel safe all over the city because I'm out there. And I think that's what it is. That's one of the things that we tried to do when we were talking about community policing. And this was a long time ago, because I don't think we're doing it now. But if you live in the community and you're active in the community and you're involved in the public safety strategy in your community, then you can talk about how you feel in relationship to safety. But somebody come in there and read some stats that are irrelevant, it doesn't mean anything. And that's what we're doing now. And again, no, it's not political, but the fact of the matter is that there's some backyard stuff going on, because it reduces not only the safety, it damages the economy and other things in our city and the reputation of our city. And that just isn't my daily experience in Washington, D.C.
So, Ron Hampton, let me ask you this. The reports allege that the district commanders were receiving pressure from the chief to manipulate the numbers. How common is, based on your experience, how common is that kind of pressure inside the police department?
Well, let me preface my comments with this before I say that. You know, I think we had to remember that the chief is a woman, number one. Number two, which is number one, she's Black. They didn't necessarily like or appreciate her coming in to the department. And I think we have to remember that policing is still a white male.
They who? You said they didn't appreciate, they who?
The white power structure, you know,
okay.
The people on the hill and all that kind of stuff. They didn't, and I mean, policing is still a white male dominated career. And this is a Black woman. This is a woman who spent 25 years in the Park Police, spent a year as chief, and then came over to our department. You know, policing hasn't changed that much fundamentally, that it embraces women, even though women in police leadership job is a trend that we see now, not only here, but across the country. The fact of the matter is that there's still pushback. She's experiencing pushback from the FOP right now. Every single day, they've been pushing back on her and her leadership. So you have to also take that in consideration. But the kind of things that they're going on, I know in the past when they had these, there would always be information going out to the district commanders from the leadership of the department about crime and a variety of other things that's going on. They had to report that stuff. The numbers are then crunched downtown, and they send it over to the FBI. And there, that stuff is that's a regular process that goes through and everything. And there's always, I don't know if it's pressure, but when you take that job, you take on the responsibility of what it is that's going on in your district, and you have to either put up or shut up in relationship to what it is you're doing to address those issues in your district. And that hasn't changed over the years.
Hold on, Ron, hold your point. Don't forget, because I'm going to let you finish on the other side. I'm going to take a really quick break. The original Quiet Storm with Raheem Devon is coming up next on WHUR-FM. This conversation continues on Sirius XM channel 141 in just a few seconds. Welcome back to the Daily Drum on Sirius XM channel 141. I'm Harold Fisher. We continue our conversation about allegations by the House Oversight Committee and DC's U.S. Attorney that DC Police Chief Pamela Smith and her senior staff manipulated crime statistics. My guests are Ron Hampton, retired DC police officer and law enforcement fellow at the University of the District of Columbia's Institute for Public Safety and Justice, and Ron Moten, community activist and author of the book Don't Mute Mo, The Vision of an Urban Scholar. Before the break, I was asking Ron Hampton about whether or not there is a history of police chiefs pressuring their subordinates to change the numbers. Go ahead, finish your point, Ron.
Yeah, I don't think that there's a history of pressuring them to change the numbers, but there's a history of being accountable to what it is that's going on in your district, in your community, for you to stay on top of that, for you to have a relevant public safety strategy to reduce crime and prevent crime in your district. Those are the kind of things that have always been a part of the law enforcement community, and that hasn't changed. But there's always going to be pushback sometime because of that, and as a result of it, we've seen some of that here in the district. But I don't think there's an unduly amount of pressure put on the district commanders to lie and fudge the numbers as it relates to the crime.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this, Ron Moten. How do you believe this issue will affect the public trust, especially when you're talking about communities that have historically been skeptical of policing?
I mean, I think that the society that we live in right now, people don't come together to just address the issues. And what we have is what we have right now. We use friction without love, and we're not making diamonds anymore. We're not solving problems anymore. And what happens is everybody attacks the chief of police, and a lot of people from your own community attack her, even though she's done things to help the community. And now you don't know what the hell you're about to get. You can get something 10 times worse, because what we do is, in our community, we attack the people who sometimes help us. We attack our heroes and sheroes, and then what happens is you end up getting something that you wish you didn't get. We've seen that play out plenty of times in our community. So I just think that we have to focus on addressing problems in our community instead of just turning each other down. And because we do that, this allows what we're seeing happening right now to happen. Because it's like you wound the warriors, and then the warriors are easy to take out. So that's how I feel about the whole situation. And I think highly of my chief of police, and her assistant chiefs and people that she worked with for the most part. The ones that I know that are in the community, that come to the meetings, that try to help people, who try to solve crimes, and they try to hold their own department accountable. And we know the department's not perfect. It's never been perfect. So, I mean, I remember, in the 80s when the police, yeah, they were doing false reports, but the false reports was the crimes they were charging people with back then. So, I mean,
You know about that.
there's a lot of people got 20, 30 years that should have never been in prison because of false reports. So, yeah, we've had a history of false reports, but we also had a history of some real good police in Washington, D.C. And I don't think they should be punished, because of what we call politics.
Ron Hampton, the FOP has been talking about these allegations. They first raised them, I think, earlier this year, I guess, when it really came to light. But I want to ask you about the FOP and really pick your institutional knowledge brain. As long as I have been working in news, I cannot remember any FOP not being highly critical of any police chief. I'm not talking about DC. I'm talking about any. I'm talking about and I'll just name the places where I've worked, whether it's Tallahassee, Florida, or Buffalo, New York, or Washington, D.C., or Prince George's County, or Baltimore. The FOP has always traditionally been critical of police leadership. Do you ever remember in DC, maybe with Charles Ramsey, and I'm guessing, you have to tell me, whether or not a police chief had a good relationship with the police union, or is that just the way the system is built?
I don't know if that's the way the system is built, but the Fraternal Order Police won the bargaining rights for the Metropolitan Police Department. It must have been either in the late 70s or early 80s. And there was a guy by the name of Gary Hankins who was working in PIO at the time, who brought them in, and then was able to they was voted in to represent. But I think we have to do two things. One thing, the first thing is that when we look at the traditional labor movement, it has been one that has been involved in the protection of civil and human rights as it relates to those individuals in the workforce. The Fraternal Order Police has never ever been involved in that. They've been doing the same thing that you just articulated, and that's criticizing leadership, whether they liked it or not. I know as a police officer or former police officer myself, I wasn't a member of it because I just refused to be a member and pay into something that wasn't interested in protecting my civil and human rights as related to the job place, but the workplace rather. But when we talk about the kind of things that they were doing, they were always critical. If the chief said go left, they said go right, and then they would criticize the chief for those kind of things. And let me tell you, I'm a stickler for Washington and protecting Washington, D.C. The police officers who lived in our city, over 85% of them didn't live in the city, lived somewhere else, and they're entitled to live wherever they want to live. But the Fraternal Order Police never, the head of the organization didn't live in the city, wasn't concerned about the issues that impact the city, and would criticize not only the city, the police department leadership, but the leadership of the city. And that's what they're doing now. So no, there's been a tension, all right, but I don't see their criticism as legitimate criticism because they don't live here. They don't have as an interest in protection of the city and the people who live here also. So they are always critical of something rather than talking about building it. Ron alluded to some of those issues. The other side of it is that they have a strong lobbying force that works up on the hill. There are times when they haven't worked with the leadership of our city, but then they've gone to the hill to attempt to reverse some of the things in legislation that our city council and mayor has signed into law. So I find them very dishonest as it relates to what it is that this city, the best thing for this city, and ultimately are super critical when it comes to the leadership, not only of the department, but of the city also.
Yeah. What protections, if any, and I guess this is a question not only about what is on the books, but also what the attitude is uh, amongst the rank and file for officers who speak up about something that they see is, wrongdoing. You may remember a couple of years ago, and I don't remember the specifics of what it was called, but I think, in Prince George's County, there was a movement to where, that if you see an officer doing something that was unbecoming of unbecoming of an officer, if he's doing something in the performance of his duty that is illegal, inappropriate, what have you, that
route to
you speak up and you would be protected. Do you believe that there is that same kind of support or attitudes among the rank and file for the same in DC police?
Oh no! I mean, during my time, not only I know officers who took it upon themselves to report other officers, and they were criticized, they were ostracized, they were threatened. Their families were, called, and phone calls and all those kind of things. I personally was the target of some of those things when I reported some of the brutality that I had witnessed in the police department and saw it. So no, and then what we have seen since then is after George Floyd, we've seen police departments adopt these attitudes that as a police officer, which was really part of the policy even before George Floyd, was that if you witness something and it's a crime, then you're required to report it. And especially if another officer commits it, you're required to report it. But, they called it the code of silence. The code of silence was real, and they're probably still real today. But and organizations like the Fraternal Order Police haven't really been honest when we talk about protecting officers who have the fortitude to speak out against those kind of things. But now those things are part and policy not only of the police department, but they're some of them are enshrined in law, that when the officer witnesses another officer's committing a crime, then they're required to report it and even place the officers under arrest. So those kind of things, have come about as a result of some of the things that we've seen over the years, going back to Rodney King and coming forward in terms of the kind of stuff that have happened in police departments. And look, and we're still on that road now. Things have not changed significantly enough that people are feeling on the job. People are feeling comfortable to be able to step forward and say what's really going on sometimes.
Well, go ahead, Ron. Go ahead, Ron Moten.
I was gonna say I seen it firsthand. If you go to Baltimore, there was a brother named D'Souza, and this brother was cleaning up corruption in the Baltimore Police Department. And man, they got him up out of there. He was locked up for not filing his taxes. Great guy. Great guy. He was about the people, he was about the department. He was a part of I forgot the name of the organization he was with, where they traveled around the world organizing police, addressing the policies and everything. He was highly regarded, man. And it just seems like if you're in the streets, people don't want to hold each other accountable. If you're in the police department, people often don't want to hold each other accountable. Like, it seems like no matter where we go, everybody just want to have it one way, and that's not going to work. And I feel like, we got to find out a way to protect our leaders who are really about the people, and the chief was about the people. I'm not saying her department is perfect, because it's not, but I don't know one that is.
No,
but what I can tell you, over the last 2 years in Anacostia and other places that I often go, I've seen things better. And when it comes to the children, everything ain't about the police. Some of it's about policy. And when I say policy, do I mean lock them up? No. Most of them don't need to be locked up, but there are some that need to be sat down and dealt with and corrected before it's too late. And a lot of policyholders are not in the trenches, so they don't know how to deal with these young people in a way that we can get them on the right path and change their life and have them use their talents in a positive way. So this is a multifaceted problem. It's not just the police department.
I want to read a statement that came from the mayor's office today. And this is quoting now, read the full statement. The men and women of the Metropolitan Police Department run towards danger every day to reduce homicides, carjackings, armed robbery, sexual assaults, and more. The precipitous decline in crime in our city is attributable to their hard work and dedication and Chief Smith's leadership. I thank Chief Smith for her commitment to the safety of DC residents and for holding the Metropolitan Police Department to an exacting standard. And I expect no less from our next chief of police. There are two things there, Ron Hampton. That statement did not necessarily address the allegations. But the other thing is that, and I guess this has to do with my question for you, Ron Hampton. What are you going to look for? This is the second thing. What would you look for in the next police chief? What does that person have to be in order to make a successful police department?
Well, number one, we need to put out a call that is going to be that we're looking for one, and individuals should apply. They should also come here with some sort of plan or strategy about how they are going to do what it is that this city requires them to do. There should also be some scale of performance evaluation of those individuals. You just don't come in here, take the job, and then tell us that you're going to do something, and then we don't evaluate it ourselves. We also need to be looking at who's in the system. We need to be looking at people that's outside it. There need to be a thorough evaluation of the individual if they've been in the field for any length of time. But I can tell you that I wouldn't like an individual that would, for example, we remember the Karan Hilton incident that happened up on Kennedy Street. And the officer and the lieutenant that was involved in that information that was charged with the situation, and then both went to court and was found guilty by a jury. Both individuals found guilty by a jury. And then the orange man stepped in and pardoned them and then sent them back to the Metropolitan Police Department. And the chief and the mayor welcomed them and wanted them to be back in the police department. Well, that person, if someone is situated like that, that's not the kind of person that I believe we ought to have, because those individuals not only broke with and violated policy within the police department as it relates to the no chase policy, but to bring that individual back. If I was on the police department today, I wouldn't work with an individual who was found guilty of violating policy, ending up in an individual's death, and then to bring those people back. That's a slap in the face for the integrity and the to this job, the job that people are expected to do. They violated the law. They broke the law. They could be a police officer maybe somewhere else, but they shouldn't be back here. So anytime, if we're going to have people like that are going to come here, then that's not the kind of person that I want to say to be the chief of police. And I understand the limitations of our political here in DC. But some things I think you had to stand up to.
Let me read a response to these reports from Ward 2 Council Member Brooke Pinto. Her office says that in response to the GOP-led committee's report, the council will continue to look into the allegations, and Councilmember Pinto will hold a performance oversight hearing of DC's police department in this coming February. Your thoughts about that, Ron Moten?
I mean, that's a tough one for me because when you say look at the allegations, are we talking about for the last 15 years?
No, the allegations that have been alleged in these two reports, because of this.
That's what I'm saying. If there's going to be an investigation or a hearing, we got to go back 15 years because these so-called allegations didn't start with Chief Smith. So if we trying to solve the problem, and if it is a problem, you got to go back and look at the root causes and when it started. So, for instance, there was a lady that was on the news who said that she was a whistleblower and she won a lawsuit case because she said this happened, but she made it clear that this didn't start with Chief Smith. So if that's the case, we have to go back to where it started. You can't, because if it started with somebody else, then it's clear she wasn't the person that started the problem. And that's factual right there. So when we look at it from that perspective, we got to say, is this really about the issue that's at hand, or is it another issue that we don't see? So that's my thing. So if Pinto is going to really look at it, she has to go back and look at it thoroughly to when this was allegedly started, if this is really a issue.
What do you, I wanted to put a fine point on this statement because her office goes on to say GOP-led committee report, which kind of speaks, Ron Hampton, to what you were saying in the beginning of this conversation.
Yeah. I just think that there's an effort. There's an effort to discredit a lot of what's going on in our city, whether it's the leadership of the city, the council, the mayor, the police chief, how we go about doing our business. They can't walk into Prince George's County, Maryland, and make these claims. They can't walk into New York City and make these claims. They can't walk into Detroit and make these claims. But see, they can do it here in Washington, D.C. because we have home rule, some limited form of government, and ultimately the Orange Man and his Magna friends want to discredit the whole process so they can take over and federalize the city and do any and everything they want to do. And I think you had to push back on it, but the way you push back on it will determine the outcome. And see, so it can't be, you can't be blaming it all on somebody when the process may be corrupt. If it's corrupt, then it's corrupt. Then deal with it from the very beginning and how it got started. Don't start just doing it because you want to do it. But, we're going to see, there's going to be some repercussions, and what they want to do is see some heads roll, and then we'll have a situation here where people will be discredited, and then next thing you know, they'll be talking about justification for taking over the city. That's where they really headed. And I think we had to push back on all of that. We can't allow them to do that. I think we had to stand up for what we have here. And are there consequences sometimes for standing up for what you believe? Of course there are consequences.
Well, to your point, Ron Hampton, so that the chief, she is stepping down at the end of this month. So we've got she's going to be gone in 15 days. The mayor the week before, the chief announced, said she's not running. And so essentially, what does this mean for the next leadership for the District of Columbia? It will be in that person. This issue will be in that person's hands as mayor and as chief.
Yeah. and they're not. Well, the mayor isn't leaving us in any kind of comfortable position about what it is that's going on. But the mayor is doing probably the best thing that she can do. Because if she thought she could win, she would be running again. So evidently, she don't think she can win again, and she's alluded to that.
But I would also argue that after 3 terms, would she want to continue this same kind of fight without the historical autonomy that the DC mayors have had? I mean,
I totally agree. No,
yeah, we have not had a president who has meddled in district affairs, for lack of a better term. Before, like we have seen with the Trump administration. I mean, Ron Hampton said, those officers who were pardoned by the president and put back on the force, that's just never happened before.
That's right.
So, some would say whether the mayor believes that she could or could not win, she may have said, look, I don't want to deal with this anymore. Your thoughts about that, Ron Moten?
I absolutely think that. I mean, I wouldn't want to deal with it if I didn't have the people behind me and understand the complexities of the decisions that she had to make. She could easily say, I'm going to go toe-to-toe with Trump and the hell with him, and then he come and pimp smack her. And then when he pimp smack her, who will be standing with her? No, I'm seriously. I mean, that's the situation we in D.C. Who will really be standing there? Who's ready to go hard? Like, everybody talks a lot of stuff, but are they ready to put the ink on the paper to say that you were the mayor, the person responsible for your city getting slaughtered? You were the one responsible for everything being taken away from your city, because that's what you're gonna wear. Ain't nobody gonna say, So I'm not saying that you don't fight back. I'm just saying that you got to think before you move. It's like playing chess, and I think she's played the best chess she could play under the circumstances. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people, like I tell you, a lot of the policies in this city, they all sound good until you try to do them in real life, and then they come in and get in office and see what they were saying was impossible. You know what I'm saying? So somebody gonna take the throne soon, and we're gonna see what they do, because it's easier said than done.
Yeah, like Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Exactly. and she's got punch, and I think she's fought back the best way that she could, considering the circumstance. Do I agree with everything? No, I don't. But at the same token, I understand what it is to be in a fight. I understand what it is to get ambushed. I've been through that. And most people who talk this stuff ain't never been through it. They don't know what it feels like to wake up and have a whole government against you. They don't know what it feels like when somebody tells the people to annihilate you, right? And we're in a situation where the push of a button, somebody could do that right now. And they got some people in the House and the Senate that will follow their lead in everything they would do. So we got to stop talking all this tough stuff and talk smart stuff. And I think the mayor has done a great job under the circumstances that she's in, under the circumstances where somebody can come in and do an investigation and don't trust nothing that you do and try to annihilate you at any moment. So I'm just saying, we just got to be smart, man. I mean, the House and Senate might change soon. But at the end of the day, I think it's a lot of things that we should be doing in our community ourselves that we could have corrected that might not have put us in some of these positions. And we got to be honest about that too, because a lot of times we act like we don't have nothing to do with what's going on. Because I tell you, where I lay my head in every day, we had 17 people like cars broken into on the weekends, right? Every weekend. And that don't happen no more. So it's a few reasons why that don't happen. So I'm not mad at everything that's happening. I'm mad at how it's happening.
Okay. Look, I'm out of time, but I want to thank both of you, Ron Hampton and Ron Moten, for spending some time. We are going to continue to watch this evolving situation. That is the Daily Drum for this Monday, December 15th. I'm Harold Fisher.